Minister Sanja Vlahovic, thank you again for the honor of coming to the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy. We'd love to ask you just a few questions to go a little deeper into some of the leading issues of this conference. So to begin with, the accession negotiations with the EU have been underway since June 2012. What are the main remaining reforms Montenegro must implement in order to meet the standards required by the European Commission to become a member state of the EU?
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for your question. Of course, for me is special to talk about European negotiations with the European Union, because Montenegro has just provisionally closed the first chapter in the negotiation process, and it's concerning the science and technology and innovation, the chapter 25. So we're very proud, the ministry that I represent, Ministry of Science, is very proud that the first chapter was closed in that field. But obviously there is a way to go to close the negotiations with the European Union. But what I think is important are two things. First, the negotiations with the European Union give us possibility to adjust to European standards, to European politics. And this is a good changing process and a process of adaptation for our country. And therefore, in that adaptation process, which is a second important thing, we have noticed a few things that we obviously need more to improve than the others. One is concerning the legal system and legal framework, and this is normal probably with all the countries that are entering, adjusting the legal procedures, adjusting the laws, etc. So this is one thing, and the other thing is concerning sustainable development and ecology, which means that we have to accept some of the European laws and rules. As far as we are going up to now, it looks well, and hopefully Montenegro is very enthusiastic about the process, which closed the first chapter only in 2 months and a half. So we are leaders at the moment after Croatia in the region, so hopefully it will run well until the end.
Okay. So what do you consider to be the principal contributions of Montenegro to the cultural diversity of the EU? Like which tools of cultural diplomacy does Montenegro use in order to transmit these across the continent?
Well, first of all, Montenegro is a very specific country, and we are by ourselves a mixture of cultures, and we are multinational, multi-ethnic, multi-religious country. And I think this is a very good point, not only for the European Union, but also for the region and the development of the region that, as we know, have passed a lot of turbulences in the past 20 years. So I'm sure that Montenegro has a lot to offer. Although small country, we say that in the new age, in the age of globalization, there are no small countries. So from that point of view, we can say that Montenegro, although small country, can really contribute a lot. First of all, with its multi-ethnical, multicultural, multinational, let's say, atmosphere, and also people that we think are very important link between ourselves and the rest of the Europe. We have our people that are really in a certain good position in Europe and abroad in the world. We try to make links and networks, which I'm going to talk about today in the presentation. And I think that through people and through our nation brand, which is mostly based on the great nature and the great natural resources that we have, we can really represent ourselves good to the world, but also participate in all the European programs and give a certain new way of thinking and maybe some new wave to the European Union when we enter as one of the Balkan countries with a specific atmosphere and culture.
Okay, thank you. So, corporate cultural diplomacy activities are privately funded programs that encourage the exchange of cultural practices and values, ultimately promoting intercultural dialogue and respect. And corporate cultural diplomacy activities cover a wide spectrum of diverse fields and stakeholders. So, examples of corporations engaging in the CCD activities include include intercultural exchange programs and activities in the fields of education, arts, sports, music, film, and academic and scientific research. So to what extent do you think private sector corporations should engage in corporate cultural diplomacy practices? And in what ways does corporate social investment help to strengthen intercultural relations in our increasingly interdependent and mobile world?
That's right, I think a lot. And maybe a good example is the way that we as Montenegro are presented here in this event. We are here as representatives of the government, but also we have our friends from the cooperative part that are really engaged with the linking Montenegro with the world and with the new projects that are really some of the bases that you're mentioning in your cultural diplomacy concept. First of all, Montenegro as a small country has a lot to learn about people that, a lot to learn from the people that are coming to Montenegro, and people coming to Montenegro are mostly investors and foreign companies that have a lot of impact in our small, rather small economy on one hand. On the other hand, Montenegro needs to create links between our people and the foreign let's say, extent, and in that meaning we need to work a little bit on our linking and networks toward the international context. Therefore, I think that both private sector and corporative sector and the link with the government and the institutions is probably the formula for the best results in the field that you are into and your institute is researching, but also the field that is very important for all of us, especially on the path towards not only European Union, which we are too, but on the path of towards globalization and an internationalization in all aspects.
Which do you consider the main challenges and opportunities for promoting Montenegro as a destination for sustainable tourism?
You know that Montenegro is one of the states in the region that was proclaimed, for the first one that was proclaimed to be the ecological state. Well, to be honest, it was because of the percentage covered by protection of international organization. We have a lot of our spaces protected by UNESCO and different programs that are actually protecting specific regions and specific natural resources. And therefore, at a certain point, at a certain extent, the Parliament of Montenegro has decided to proclaim the Montenegro the ecological state. But this is only one step towards really presenting Montenegro as ecological and sustainable destination. Of course, when we talk about sustainability, we always have to keep four elements in our head. The first one is economic aspect, and it always includes a certain level of development, but following a step-by-step principle, sustainable development principle. The other component is social, which was for us as a tourist destination, as a country that tends to be open towards the world, is very important, because somehow we are changing in a social context, we are changing in a social way, keeping in mind all the links that we tend to do and that we are doing all the time. The next one is ecological, which we need to work on. Although we are ecological state, we are very fully aware of some of the negative aspects of the story at the moment in Montenegro. So we're working hard in a project that are ecologically based. And finally, last but not the least, the cultural aspect, which also includes the thing that you are promoting in your institute, the cultural diplomacy, and that intends the linking cultures and interfering from different cultures. So I think that in some of these 4 points we need to focus on all of them, but for the moment I think that there are two that are focal points. One is ecology and the other is economy, and those are two things that we need to work on in order to become really a sustainable destination in all four elements.
Research and innovations are key drivers for the economic prosperity of countries. Do you regard this as a basis for cooperation among Balkan countries to further their development?
Yeah, I think we'll have to accept and to adjust to European policy. European strategy, Europe 2020, has put science and technology and innovation as one of 4 key factors for the future success of Europe. And therefore, either we like it or not, because of the investment in science and research, we have to accept that this is one of the ways to really become more successful. For example, what we do in Montenegro, we have redesigned the strategy for science and technology and innovation in our country. Now we have focused more to applied sciences and to priority list that we have established, and therefore now we are changing towards the psychology that is accepting science and technology as a key factors for our future success. We're working at the moment on 2 projects, creating centers of excellence and techno parks in Montenegro, which will be probably the combination of the 2, will give us the cycle from the research through innovation up to new product and service, which will be the basis for competitive position on the international market.
My next question is, what role is Montenegro currently playing in so-called Millennium project? I think you already spoke about this before. So my question would be, what has been your country's greatest initiative so far?
We are actually, with our colleagues that are here also in this participating S&T company and Mr. Milan Maric, we are working on establishing also, we have the Millennium project point or node, as they call it, in Montenegro. But what is important for us to get from that project are 2 elements. One is to get a good link towards the Europe, and one project is leading Ministry of Science. This is a project Tele Montenegro, which Mr. Maric will talk a little bit later about on this session, connecting people through different interests through a portal that will be common for certain topics of interest. For example, our think tank will be connected through Tele Montenegro to scientists and people of interest in the whole world, and it will connect, as far as I understood, our colleagues around 7 million people at the moment. You will be able to connect to 7 million points in the world. This is one interested point, and the second interesting point is a foresight strategy or analysis, which Millennium Project can bring to Montenegro, meaning that we can somehow think about our future, the way that we can prevent maybe some problems that are coming and create better strategies. So this is actually what Millennium Project for us is important in Montenegro, why it is important, and this is what we are doing with them.
In many parts of the world, women are gaining increased access to the global market via public and private sector jobs. However, this access remains unequal and women representation in leading positions is compromised. Should this inequality be tackled on an international level, or should measures be primarily enacted at the domestic level? What actions the Montenegro is taking in this regard?
Yeah, I'm very happy that we are working on a gender agenda, let's say, and gender projects. And for example, when I entered the government, the first time, not this is the second mandate that I'm in the government, but the first mandate, I was the only woman in the government. So it was really a huge fuss about that, me being the only woman, and why there are no more women in the government in the 21st century where we need to have. Now in the one government afterward, 2 years afterwards, we have 3. So obviously we are moving from a certain point, but there the phenomena called the glass ceiling, which is stopping or preventing women to get on the top position, is definitely present both in the world and on the national level. My opinion is that all the initiatives should go from down there, from where women really live their context with their wishes, their needs, etc., and then transform into certain politics that would be accepted by parliaments, governments, and then, of course, also at the international level. I think that we women, I can criticize because I am a woman, but we women sometimes are not active enough, maybe in presenting our own needs, our own wishes, and therefore sometimes sometimes when they are not met, our wishes and our needs, then we are angry, but we don't realize that sometimes we didn't even say exactly what our needs for the future time are. So I think that the bottom-up is better, more effective, in my opinion, approach to creating a good strategy for women involvement.
Madam Minister, thank you for your time. Thank you for interesting answers. It was a real pleasure and honor to have you here with us.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure for me too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.